Yeah. Welcome to Swim Fans. Do you guys have any whimsy? Well, how's Whimsy Corner? Let's check in on everybody's whimsy supply.
Are we doing?
Yeah. Do you guys have anything whimsical to say?
The gnomes that occasionally charm me to think that they live beneath my porch have all died. The tubers have not generated this season. I am out of cozy time tea. My wife has left with it. She's gone over the mountain to be with another man. The field of daisies has wilted and died. No, the whimsy has gone.
Yeah, ever since the Wizard Union's negotiations have fallen through, the Enchanted Forest has really started to fall apart.
It was sold to a lumber company.
Yeah. You would really be surprised how few little girls go on odysseys to the forest to visit their grandmother. It's almost none these days.
We've begun leasing the land for a 6-lane freeway.
Yeah. There's simply no storytelling. There's no coming of age. It's all freeway, baby.
Just one of those big deforesting machines, just ripping gnomes apart and shit.
Yeah, like the beginning of Fern Gully.
Yeah,
it's way bloodier though.
If the machine from Fern Gully just won, it's just won in the end.
Yeah. I mean, that's really what's wrong with this country, right? The kids are doing TikTok dances when this country was founded on witches baking them into pies inside of her candy house.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, they'd be a little more wily, a little more skeptical, a little safer here out in this world. But no, they're left vulnerable because they've simply never heard a fable before.
Yeah, you can't even accidentally prick your finger on like a haunted sewing machine and then fall into a slumber for 20 years until you get your true love's kiss. Like, it doesn't even happen anymore.
And that's because of rising rent prices.
That's true.
Is that nobody can afford to sleep for 20
too
years.
Dang high.
Perhaps all the heads of state wouldn't be adding journalists to the Yemen bombing group chat if magic beans were still abound.
Hero with 1,000 faces, I can barely afford one.
Who was the giant at the top of the beanstalk? What was his name?
Jack?
No, Jack climbed the beanstalk.
Went up the beanstalk.
Oh, fuck, damn. Guess who's a victim of fable erosion?
And then they came for us.
Yeah, the enshittification of Craig's fairy tale knowledge. I don't think the giant had a name. I think it was just the giant.
Did he not have a name?
I don't think so. All I know is that he wants to ground Jack's bones to make his bread.
Yeah, fee fi fo fum.
Yeah. Yeah, giants are rarely chanting that at the serfs anymore.
Yeah. They can't afford children at these prices.
Thunderdell. His name was Thunderdell, I guess.
No way, really?
According to wikipedia.org/wiki/Thunderdell. You know, who am I to argue with the experts?
Yeah, now all we can do is invest in Rumpelstiltskin coin.
Let's get those rumples going in the chat.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hit it!
Hello and welcome to Swim Fans, your number one podcast for cranks that are like really weird about it. I am your co-host, blindly shooting arrows out of my bedroom window. I'm Josh McKenzie.
Now the story of a weird family who lost everything and the one father who had no choice but to maybe keep them together. It's Arrested Development. I'm Craig Neeson.
I'm Sudden Valley resident Alex Hopkins.
I'm very glad we all clued into that. This week on the show, we are talking 1991 Eitan Iguyen film, The Adjuster. Okay, so if you've not seen The Adjuster, this stars Elias Koteas. He is a family man with a wife and a child, and his wife's mute sister, and they live in like a Sudden Valley style housing complex. They live in a display home away from anybody else. So Noah is an insurance adjuster. Primarily in the movie, he deals with people whose homes have burned down. So what Noah's day to day is like is that he goes to the house fire scenes. He finds the victim of the fire, and he tells them, "Oh, you're in shock. You might not know it yet, but you're in shock." And then he puts them up at a motel, which he favors, and often he sleeps with them. So women, young and old. There's even a guy that he has sex with. So he sort of curates a brothel for himself out of people who have lost everything. Meanwhile, Noah's wife, Hera, she works as a film censor. So she sits in the screening rooms of really vile sounding pornography, and hits the censor buttons when a scene or a moment comes up that is to be censored. But importantly, Hera is also filming the movies so she can take the movies back and show her sister, who seems to be like an agoraphobe or another kind of shut in. She stays at home with Noah and Hera's child all day. But yeah, she does watch these incredibly violent or pornographic movies that Hera brings home to her. So that's sort of what's going on with the family. And they keep existing in this fashion until they run into the other plot of the movie. This is Bubba and Mimi. So they are perverts, rich perverts, who spend all of the movie up until a certain point just doing bizarre, I'm going to say Lynchian kind of sex scenes, where they're just they're doing public sexual play. I don't know. They're just filming weird porn movies. And the plots sort of collide when Bubba goes to their house in this housing development, and he's like, "Hey, please let me rent your home. I want to shoot a movie here. Yeah, I'll pay you, whatever." So the Render family goes to stay at the motel where Noah puts all of the people that he's having sex with up in. So Bubba and Mimi go to shoot this movie. It's extremely strange and upsetting, the movie. There's a bunch of children involved, and things sort of begin to erode. Hera seems to imply that Noah is distant, only sort of being interested in the people whose misery he's currently sort of feeding off of. Finally at the end of the movie, after Noah hooks up with this guy, the family leaves the motel while he's unaware. Assuming they went back to the house, Noah goes to the home, and they find Bubba, who after the movie has been filmed is pouring gasoline around the home, and then he lights it aflame, presumably burning alive in the house, Bubba. And then on the outside of the home, in the final scene here, we watch Noah sort of watching his home go up in flames. His family's whereabouts are unknown, but we see that the way that Noah met his wife and her sister was from a house fire themselves. So he met them doing insurance adjusting, as he meets all of the people who he meets doing insurance adjusting. What do we think?
This is great. I think this is bizarre. The other film that we've covered from this director is, of course, Chloe. Mm-hmm. And boy, I'd be remiss to say that I would never pin a man who directed Chloe to deliver something like this, because as I remember, Chloe was really not so good. And this
fine.
Is infinitely.
It was a remake of a different movie.
I'm sorry?
Chloe was a remake of a French movie, I believe. So it's a bit less of his personal style. It
was diluted by the French impurity. Many such cases. This film is it's beautiful. I mean, it's really elegantly photographed. I think the term Lynchian gets thrown around, but if you're gonna photograph an executive, kind of way back in a movie theater, and he's being lit by one blue fluorescent light, you got to cop to that at some point. I think there's a really interesting play of all these characters existing in this state of unwilled or weirdly willed nothing. They're all completely stripped of things that have real value, like love and joy, and like the general like kind of experience of life, while a man who's desperately incapable of like metabolizing the intangible without first like ascribing it like a value, like the dead dog, or like the feeling of finding a ring that didn't burn in the fire. He simply can't. He can't move about the world without understanding it in kind of numerical order. And because this world exists in like a desolate place, a place without kind of how do I say this? He's like the god of the world. He's the god of the world because he's capable of assigning value to things, and for this reason, he's treated like literally quite like Jesus Christ. He saves people. I was reading on Letterboxd. Someone was like, the reason he's shooting arrows is because of Robin Hood. I'm like, that's a stretch. But
who else in history shot arrows? Robin Hood did.
But
checkmate.
There's this like this movie is like a perfect feedback loop, kind of like Mulholland Drive in a way, where desire is something that like is like image based, like for the wife. She actually can't meaningfully like hold it, so she pawns the desire off onto her sister, who's mute, who can't speak, who is completely like dependent on it. Like I mean, I think it like perfectly kind of captures a secular society kind of bound like on this like hideous little wheel of like not having being like constantly in pursuit of a thing and not finding and trying to ascribe value to the intangible and not being able to do it, but being able to do it to the material objects around you, and like cycling between like having and being possessed and then dispossessed, possessed and then dispossessed, possessed and dispossessed, like those fucking like greyhounds that like chase the fake little rabbit around the the track. But there's something generous about the movie. There's something a little more pointed, a little more like politically like salient than like David Lynch I think is capable of. One of the things that I love the most about Santa Sangre, for example, is the end where the lead character has finally taken agency for the things that he's done. He the cops say raise your hands, and he raises his hands, but he's like, my hands, like I've done the things that I've done with my hands. I have agency, even though I didn't want to believe that I did. I wanted to ascribe it to other people. I have agency. And I think that there's a beautiful image of the adjuster holding his hand out to flame and kind of realizing, to make a joke, what he's had a hand in creating. This like monstrous little like image making, image censoring, desire pursuing, a failure to achieve desire, like this little nasty little hamster wheel. It's like not a pleasant movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it is like in some way like generous and like bewitching.
I really liked this. I thought it got like way under my skin though, in a way I wasn't really expecting it to. And a lot of that I'm bringing to it. Like I'm kind of going through a lot lately, and like part of it is like just the process of becoming okay with who I am, and who I am is also kind of starting to get old. I'm like around the ages of the main couple, and in like the shadow of the older pervert couple, right? That's starting to kind of loom over me. And I found the movie to just be so dead set on evoking like a kind of inescapable banality that really kind of hit me. I don't know. It's like he has to, like Craig, you're saying, he has to quantify everything. And then at one point, one of his like clients is like, no, I kind of just let the fire take the house because I didn't want it anymore or something like and he can't like seem to like wrap his head around like that someone might not want to have the life that they have. Just watching him recite the same dialogue over and over again to everyone and then just fuck them to try to feel something. And he doesn't really feel anything because the transgression is banal because he's been doing it for so long. That just felt so bleak to me. He's at the point where like the deceit isn't the pain. The pain is that the deceit is meaningless and he doesn't really care anymore. And I think the movie shows us where like seeking perversion for perversion's sake gets you, and that's being the old lecherous couple instead of being like a young pervert. You just can just age into being an old one. I don't know. I got the overwhelming feeling that for this guy, trying to build what he thinks of as like a life, which I think is like really beautifully symbolized by the model home, is just like pretending to exist in a respectable world, which if you could and this guy can't, is like just as meaningless as everything else, every other non-respectable person. Also, it looked great. Love the heavy use of shadows. The compositions were extremely pleasing. I liked it quite a bit.
Yeah, I liked this a lot. I didn't know when I selected this that it was going to be like a movie. So that
the
was
poster
a pleasant surprise.
would trick anyone into thinking that a ghoul picture or whatever.
Actually, I sort of like the poster. It has sort of like an Edward Hopper just kind of feel to it.
No, it's a good poster. I'm just saying it looks like an erotic thriller.
Yeah, it does look like a ghoul picture. Yeah, I like this very much. I do think it's gorgeous. I think it's. I'm pretty sure I've already ranted about this on the show, but there are only a few things that I think you could genuinely call Lynchian because he's a singular sort of voice. But I think this movie is one of them. I think a lot of the scenes with the pervert couple are just like bizarre and upsetting. I'm thinking of like the football scene where like the football team like eats her out on the middle of like a field, and I'm like, I hate what's happening. It's interesting what you both got out of the movie. To me, I sort of feel like the sort of the overarching metaphor here is this idea of like realness and simulacrum. That like they're the only way to like identify a simulacrum would be to also like know the real, right? Like if you don't know that there's a real, then you don't know that there's a simulation of the real. So this movie is full of people who are either simulation maxing or have just recently learned that you can unplug from the Matrix or long to unplug from the Matrix. And I think this sort of metaphor is like reiterated several times throughout the movie. Like, I mean, I think that this idea of Noah stocking this motel full of like discreet domesticity that he can like step in and out of, where he's this sort of paternal, sometimes not so paternal figure, who can come in and save the day and then leave, and then he can go to like another home and do the same thing. And he has this sort of like run of this simulation of family, this simulation of connection, over and over again. Like you said, Alex, you see it with the model home. There's a scene where Bubba, the pervert man, pulls like one of those fake book liners out of the bookshelf, puts it back on. Such sudden valley behavior. There is this scene where in the middle of Bubba and Mimi filming their I can only imagine deeply upsetting pornography movie that Bubba is distracted because outside is Seta and the little boy, and they have a genuine connection, an aunt and a nephew, and he like literally puts like his hand to the glass wanting to connect with it, but he is trapped inside of like simulation and sensation. I mean Hera exists in a world of like, she's quite literally taking in like fantasy and having to like, rate and censor fantasy as she is. And of course she then gets Seta, who is without input, right? She is an agoraphobe. She lives only inside the home. Her only outlet is in fact this package simulation of, again, graphic depictions of violence and gore and sex. With that, they tell you in the movie at first she was very adverse to, but then she became desensitized to it. So, I think the whole movie is this idea of, seeing these replications of things in the modern world and confusing that for the real world, forgetting that, so it's sort of like Plato's cave, I guess, for the modern American condition, is that you get so inundated with the artificial and the simulation, and then you realize without noticing that you've constructed your life around the simulation, and then only the cleansing fire can remind you that there's a world outside, which is bleak.
Yeah,
pretty heavy. But I did like the movie.
Yeah,
I liked it more
go ahead, Alex.
afterwards. Watching it, I found it to be a completely depressing experience, but in the hour between finishing it and going to bed, I appreciated it a lot more than while I was watching it.
It's interesting. Yeah, like the Plato's cave. I like that. But everyone is looking over everyone else's shoulder. Like it's there's like there's a wheel. There's a I keep seeing like a wheel when I try to structure my thoughts around this film. The people at the motel see the adjuster as not only a savior of people, but a savior of them. It keeps them going. It keeps them employed. It keeps gives their life meaning, and it gives like kind of meaning to like tragedy in general. Like he's a force for good, and the motel also serves in that way. With that very like loaded prayer card. The way that it functions, it's like this is a place of respite and healing from the thing, and not some kind of how do I say this, like the motel itself is also like a part of like a vampiric system, right? Like it's something that generates like revenue from the suffering. It exists precisely because of the dispossession of people. But there's kind of like everyone is kind of like marveling at like what they don't quite have. Like the pervert couple are marveling at the adjuster and his family. And the adjuster and his family live perhaps like the falsest life. They live in the Bluth family model home. His wife, the way that this movie ends, to me, it's like his wife isn't even really his wife. His sister-in-law is not his sister-in-law's child. It's not his child. It's simply there's something he's picked up, through
ready-made.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. They're a ready-made. He simply incorporated them into his life. Found, in his words, like the cheapest place, which is this one house that is a nothing house, this like the cycle kind of continues where they want it. He also wants something. He can't see himself as the perhaps appropriately, he can't see himself as the savior that everyone sees him as. I think a character that's like really critical to this film that we only ever see like literally in passing. I think her name is Luisa or something like this. She's a maid at the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she speaks so emphatically about like how great he is. And there's even a point where she not so subtly is like, if there's anything I can do to make your stay more memorable, you can also have sex with me. There's this there's this like construction of like you can see like each character constructing their own kind of desire, or at least in the case of the wife character, she can only see it, but she's like by choice or by like profession or something, she can't actually like access it. I mean, this movie opens with a very strange sequence of her on like a subway station, and there's this homeless man. He's like coughing. He's not doing well. And this woman in this vibrant red suit, sits next to him, takes his hand and forces it like into her crotch, and she's laughing hysterically, and the wife character is like can't like access it, like in much the same way that she can't like meaningfully access like the things that she's seeing, the things that she's like being paid to censor. She can't access it until that moment where it's the fucking dweeb, the tattletale, the dude that's telling you not to make a boot of the new Star Wars movie or whatever. He's telling the usher to escort you out, so people can't watch the cam from the Pirate Bay. They concoct a kind of like some weird Kafkaesque like scenario where she's going to be how do I say this, like sexually they're going to instigate some kind of like sexual encounter with her, to which she meets with like acceptance, like she's rather than like rejecting this dweeb's touch, she like at first embraces it, and then in perhaps one of the more beautifully shot sequences in the film, she stands up in front of this projector, and you're kind of seeing like vaguely flesh-like things projected on her, as like moaning, and she's laughing at the same time that she's weeping. Like she's finally kind of like been confronted with this like the subordination of like her own like fantasy, like how it's been like how she's like one of the things I think is like really instructive is like the boss at the censorship factory is like like censorship isn't really what we're doing. What we're doing is like classifying things. And A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, they all mean something. They're all coded, and like that the way in which desire or kind of like fantasy has been like codified in kind of like in that way like neutralized to the point where it's like not affecting her, and it's not even really meaningfully affecting the sister anymore, even though she's seeing like uncut, uncensored things, because she exists in a profession that like classifies fantasy. She doesn't like have like access to them. She's like perhaps like the most tortured character in the entire film.
Yeah, and I think instructively too, you have like a gradation of people who are, for lack of a better term and relevant to swim fans, in or out of the Matrix. Like you've got Mimi, who's just Cypher. All right, she's like, I will not leave the Matrix. It feels good here. That's Mimi, by the way, Craig, the lady in the red who assaults the homeless man.
Oh, is it in the first part?
Yeah. You see
okay.
them later get like walk into their. It's like kind of like a nicer house that they live in.
Right, because she changes her hair quite a bit throughout the film.
Yeah, but like I mean, she's like, I would say of all the characters in the movie, like Mimi like doesn't question the simulation. She's like, this is great. I love this this weird life of a Cenobite style pleasures to which I've become accustomed. And then you have Seda, who for whatever reason is sort of housebound. So like her only interaction with sensation with simulation is through this extremely graphic material that's brought home to her. And you know, like she, in a way, she's more passive about it, but also like she seems to reject the real, their brother apparently sends them photos from home, and like Seda like ritually burns them because she doesn't keep anything apparently. So like there's this idea that like even though she is perhaps less gung-ho about it than Mimi is, she too has rejected the real for the artificial, sort of like ritualistically choosing it all over the place. And then like on the way opposite end of the spectrum, I feel like you have Ariane, who's the lady that Alex was talking about, whose house burns down. And while Noah's having sex with her, he's like, "Hey, did you itemize your house yet?" Like as he's like, as they're
This is the darkest thing in the world, man.
as they're like getting it in, he's like, "Yeah, well, if we can figure out what's on your mantle, you can get more back."
Yeah, she's like actively riding him.
Yeah. I love how she begins to continue the conversation where it's like, well, you know, if something has been retrieved undamaged from the house, then it would be to my benefit to not itemize it, correct? You know, they're having the world's worst conversation.
Just ride the dick.
While notionally engaging in the act that most connects you, one person to another. Yeah, and to the point of like Seda as well. Sorry, he's credited as like the man behind the billboard, or like the billboard goblin or something. You know, at a certain point, there's a scream in the house, and there's a dude outside the window just fully stroking it to the television that Seda's watching the hardcore uncut porn on. And, you know, like, again, that intrusion of the real, it's like, oh no, like, you know, I'm watching like I'm watching footage that, again, we can only imagine as the audience. You know, there's like chainsaws buzzing and people moaning and shit. But you know, as soon as there's a guy with an actual dick outside the actual window, it's like like, oh fuck, you know, this is, you know, like the that intrusion of the real that she doesn't want or perhaps can't hold on to things like a photograph.
Yeah, I mean, like to sort of go back to the their conversation, because like, I mean, it's not Ariane who, you know, again is riding Noah during this conversation. It's not her that begins this conversation. It's like mid pipe, okay, mid stroke. He's like, "Hey, can we really need to talk about like the total cost of your house? Like, do you have the charts that I need?" And it's because she is like trying to escape the sauce, and he's fully sauced.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I get the feeling that like part of the thing he gets off on is that he's doing this while he's working, and like you were saying, creating this brothel of women at this motel, and that like he's just getting off on like the power that he has there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
It's the only way he
he's a little
feels
king.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's not that dissimilar from smash hit television show Severance, where every time you enter a room, it's like a discrete, bespoke reality, and then you leave the room and you get to go to a different reality because none of this is real. You have constructed all of this artificially.
One thing I think the movie gets is that if you've worked at a job long enough and you get your work done, it kind of doesn't really matter what you do. Like, no one really cares, you know?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Like, your job never cares if you curate a sex motel.
as long as you're filing those reports, man.
It does seem to me, okay, I know very little about the insurance business, but it does seem to me that he might be the worst adjuster in the entire world, because I think adjusters are supposed to stop you from paying out.
Right.
They're supposed to be the evil agents of the insurance company finding ways to not give you money.
It's a Canadian film, so maybe things are different up there.
I mean, I guess in that way, you know, that's what makes him there's a bunch of different metaphors I could use, and they all seem like maybe slightly not appropriate. Like, you know, his fiefdom is the little motel, or like he's like the god of the motel, or he's the savior of the motel. Yeah, but that fact that like he is able to like even like even his inability to experience things like empathy or like to share grief with someone. You know, there's a moment where that older gentleman, that's his client, begins crying, and he's like, "Yeah, I got like stuff to do." But the idea that like he can kind of pierce through and be like, "Hey, that dog that burned up in the fire, was that a purebred? Well, how much would that cost? Like $500 or $600?"
Yeah, that,
While
man is actively trying not to break down.
exactly, and in that way, he's a perfectly situated like Kafka character insofar as like as he explains that some people don't pick good plans. You picked a good plan, and sometimes I feel kind of useless because I'm not the guy that jerked you around. But I'm just kind of forced to do what I do. And that's like exactly to Alex's point. He's just like a little nothing guy. He crosses
All
the
that
T's
is so bleak.
and he dots the I's and he gets his job done and it's fucking horrific. And in this world, in this discrete little reality of this film, he's everything. He's everything because he can give monetary value to something, and theoretically, at best, get the money equivalent. He can make that exchange, that kind of exchange between object and its value and the description of value. But again, what we're kind of talking about that's horrific is he can't see the intangible anywhere.
Yeah.
He's like the world's worst deity. Like,
Yeah.
like imagine existing in a world, I think, as we do, where like men like this are like the closest that we have to like saviors.
Oh wait, that's just the government. Yeah, I mean, this is just the people in charge of everything are all a bunch of little guys who can't understand why. I would like to pay medical bills even though I'm poor. I would simply like a better quality of living at my blue collar job. Why people would value their circumstances simply because they're theirs. And not because,
Have you tried making more money?
Yeah. Have you tried having simply a purebred dog? Would that improve your life much? Yeah, I mean, that sort of brings me to just like the obviously this movie is very much about fire. There's fire in like 40% of the movie. It's like mostly about fire.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's for me, that's a pretty straightforward metaphor. It's just like the inherent violence of disconnecting yourself. When you've cocooned yourself in simulation, there has to be sort of a violent act to undo that. Intentional or unintentional, it's not likely to be peaceful. So you have sort of the intentional thing with Ariane where she like saw the spark and did nothing as her house burned. Or the intentionality of Bubba being like, okay, if I have to have one more simulated moment, I'm going to lose it. So instead, I'm going to burn down this stranger's house. With Mimi inside.
Word.
Forcefully dragging her out of the simulation.
Was Mimi inside?
Yeah, she's singing in the shower.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
So, she is simulating her way along. I'm going to give myself a brain virus if I keep saying simulation.
You're going to wake up from the actual Matrix.
I don't know. I'm going to become like QAnon 2 or something if I keep saying the word simulation. She just like keeps, she's unaware that she's about to be yanked out of her constructed reality there.
I like that when he's about to burn the house down or whatever, he's like, what does he say? Like, are you ready to stop playing house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he basically lives in a dollhouse, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, and that sort of speech that Bubba gives works two ways because Bubba only talks he only talks about himself in a couple scenes and they're all to like Noah's family, but like whenever he speaks about himself, he speaks about himself as like the character that he's playing in this movie. Mm-hmm. So he's talking about how like this character has to spend one more fake moment, he's gonna go insane or whatever, and so like he's like this this character's ready to stop playing house, and then he like looks at the guy wearing like a demon mask, and he just continues to pour gasoline all over his carpet.
He also says, "Are you in?"
Yeah. Are you ready to unplug? What did you both think of? Because so we see the family leave. Do you think? I mean, they just leave, right? Like they don't go to the house at all, because you don't see them again after
Right.
that.
No,
Yeah.
you just see the. I assumed was a flashback. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, would be like some kind of like Lynchian double situation where there's just another guy there.
Yeah,
It-
yeah, that's a
assuming they were
flashback
there.
because Hera's holding like a smaller child.
Ah.
Yeah, so I assume that must be
Right.
how he met them in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like you don't see them or you don't have any clue where they go, but like the movie, because we're with Noah, is like, oh, they must have gone home, and you don't see, because like right when he walks in the house, he sees Bubba like pouring gasoline, so you really don't know if they've like gone upstairs or whatever, or if they've just left. I think just leaving entirely makes more emotional sense to me than them like burning in the house. But
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't. It seems like Bubba and Mimi go up, but I feel like the kind of one hopeful note is that the three of them, the family, have like exited stage left. To what end we don't really know, but at least they're gone. At least
They're out.
they've been able to flee the like circular like hideous Ouroboros of this fucking movie.
The Canadian Matrix.
Yeah, the Canadian Matrix, exactly.
The last we see them is they're getting into a cab, and
Yeah.
it's right after he fucked that guy, right?
yeah, that's the last time you see him.
Yeah, I love that he's like not even like that worried about getting caught. Like he just has them stay at the hotel where he's fucking everybody.
And the windows open,
Yeah.
the lights are on.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
the guy that he just fucked is on full display in simulation of the photograph that he showed him earlier. Yeah, no, he's just like, again, he's a pig in shit. Like that's his world.
Yeah.
that's what he does.
Yeah.
So, you
Well,
know,
I wouldn't call him a pig in shit. He seems miserable doing
Oh,
it.
right. But he's in his domain, right? Like it's like he can do that. He can the joke a joke. This is my brain kind of synaptically misfiring from Arrested Development to David Cross. There's a David Cross joke about Strom Thurmond, predecessor of Lindsey Graham, and famously Strom Thurmond fathered a child with his African American housekeeper, and he was a inveterate racist his entire career. Incidentally, John McCain did the eulogy at his funeral. The cross joke
Maverick.
is like, I will fuck the help, but I will not pay them a decent wage. And it's like this guy is like exactly that same kind of like rot. Like he will, he'll perpetuate the system, and he won't even fucking enjoy it, right? Like he'll exist in the kind of misery and the deprivation of the people that like he's supposed to be helping, but he's not even having a fucking good time. He's just a fucking,
it's like
Yeah.
impassive.
right.
Yeah, and that's
right.
and that last scene before his family leaves, he's like, yeah, he's fucked that guy, and he's looking at the photo of the guy, and the guy was like in the exact same pose
Yeah,
as in the
yeah.
photo, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, okay, if I was a dispossessed man who saw this, how could you not think that this is a world made for you? Like this moment that you've seen in the photograph is reflected immediately in reality because you're the only character.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And-
it's
because the movie speaks about photographs pretty like incessantly throughout, and the lead even says something to the effect of like, having photographs is very useful because you can, rather than just like by remembering or trying to like sketch something out, you can say, oh, this was there, this was there, this was there. It's like a useful evidentiary tool to kind of catalog value. And because this man essentially is like oh, by the way, I got these like bonus photographs, and they're all just like they're all porn because it's a photograph, and because he knows how to like apprehend a photograph and ascribe value to it. It's it's through that he can like kind of like in some way use his ability as a human
abacus.
A human abacus to fuse it with something like a libidinal desire and be like, okay, if I arrange the thing that I've quantified just so, then maybe that's where I'll find meaning and joy. And it's like, well, psych. Whoops. You're just gonna be dragging on that cigarette while your fake wife, your fake sister-in-law, and your fake kid are fleeing from the motel that you have a fiefdom over.
Credit to that guy though. That's like an insane level of game to be like, yeah, my house burned down. Anyway, here's my nudes.
Yeah.
And then to just stand there watching him examine your nudes. I'm like, man, I wish I was that powerful.
New type of cruising just got unlocked in this film. You thought your insurance claims adjuster was out of reach, but what if you snuck some canids into those photos?
I love the line where it's just his like artistic nudes, and Elias Cody's character is like, yeah, you can't really see the backgrounds. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
More people should try that. Does anybody have any final thoughts about The Adjuster?
Oh, just kind of extrapolating on that photographic point. Bubba walks around with the world's weirdest camera that I can't quite place in terms of like its make and model. But that idea of the photographer as someone who goes around the world in an attempt to kind of possess it is really fascinating. The way that he sneaks the photo of the husband and wife, the adjuster and his wife, and they're like, what? They both. It's maybe the only time they like share a moment, and it's a moment of like, what just happened. He sneaks a flash photo of them, and it's like, oh, this is all very special. It's all very special. These three people, these strangers that have entered their bedroom while they're sleeping. Oh, this is all very special. It must be special to have a sister. And he's like fast capturing it, in an attempt to possess it. And even Mimi does the same thing when they're having that fucking eyes wide shut ass dinner, and they're looking through these photographs of the pores and trying to like grapple with like the idea of showering or singing in the shower. They're like attempting to possess like human like characteristics, human attributes, because they're so like deeply disconnected from it. The idea of like the photograph in the act of being taken, and the photograph in the act of being kind of displayed and then puzzled over is a really it's a keen kind of not very subtle but like beautiful exploration of like what you do with a photograph. Do you keep it and show it in your salon and try to understand it with a bunch of freaks, or do you recognize your homeland from photographs sent in the mail, and you have to set them on fire because they're too much to carry?
Yeah. I mean that's like directly pulled from like On Photography, right? Like Sontag talks exactly about that.
Yeah, and like Roland Barthes for sure. Yeah, like it that's all like, I don't want to say it's like elementary, but it's like that's like that's like bedrock kind of like foundation stuff. Yeah.
The basics of being not fun at parties.
Exactly. Of not getting laid chronically.
There's definitely some kind of voyeurism component going on. There's too many cameras. There's people recording screens, invading, like they're shooting a movie. There's something, I don't know. Maybe with more time, could unpack that better. But
yeah, no, it's like looking is curating, looking is forming your simulation. Start bleeping this. Start bleeping the word simulation.
I will not do that. New libidinal drop. This is great.
I gave this Yeah, I gave this 4 stars. I think this is a heater. A heater for depressives everywhere.
Yeah, 4 stars for me as well.
Yeah, solid 4.
Fantastic. We have a question. This one comes to us not under duress from Kyle Delita. They ask, "Hey, swim fans, love you guys, love each of you so much. What's a recent movie trend you've seen that you hate and one that you love?"
Kyle says, "Hey guys, I love you. I hate myself, but you guys are incredible. I wish I was as cool as you. Unfortunately, I'm Kyle Delita and I suck."
So I don't know if this is like a okay. I'm gonna do a television trend that I think sucks. There's a lot of I think this has been kind of pervasive, but you see it in things like Sabrina is a good example. But there are legion of like young adult shows about magic and like magic academies. And some are like more adult than others, and some are more like there's one about like this girl's a fairy, and she was like swapped as a fairy as a child, and it's
many of us have. It's happened to many of us.
and it's like about like again like they all follow the Harry Potter like format. But there are various degrees of like young adult where it's like there might be like slightly edgier tones and like more like explicit like romance as like a center driving force. I think that shit is like just awful. A trend that I do like.
Sorry, can I I just want to give a negative shout out to the show Wednesday for completely not getting what makes the Addams Family interesting, which is them in contrast to regular people, and then just like shipping her off to like an academy where everyone's like a werewolf or whatever.
We call that a shout down.
Great show, asshole.
Yeah, I mean, that's also symptomatic of what I'm speaking about. A thing that I do like, and I wish to see more of. I was very, very charmed by Fear Street. I love the idea.
So true.
I love the idea of young adult horror, young adult slasher. I think that as a kind of something that like not just television but also film. To me, I find there's something heartening about going to the cinema with like someone that you're very clammy and awkward, and you're like afraid to talk to, and you want to impress them, and you go see a slasher film. I think that's beautiful, and something like Fear Street kind of proves that you can make something for an audience that is that age, and like you can take the old and you can kind of retrofit it with the new in a way that is at the very least like enjoyable. So yeah, more young adult horror, less young adult. I wish I was J.K. Rowling, which why would you ever wish that? Aspire for better, please. The bar's very low.
A thing that I don't like is that I feel like a lot of horror movies now look like Halloween themed insurance commercials. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Light them up.
Like there's like you can see too much of everything. They're all shot with like this hideous wide angle cinema lens. Everything's too sharp. It sucks, man. It's so lifeless.
You want grime again?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I'm not a cinematographer technically. Maybe I am. I don't know how that works. A thing that I like is that I don't know. We got, maybe it's just because we covered them on this show, but I feel like we're getting like horny movies again, and I want to see more of that.
Yeah,
I feel like you can once again sell movies based on the promise of seeing hot people fuck. and I'm all for that.
Yeah, because like what, maybe the end of the second Obama term to the first Trump administration, through most of Biden, it was like, oh yeah, we hate to see a breast. God help you if there's passion on screen.
Yeah. I think a lot of that was probably especially the social media backlash to sex scenes was probably a bunch of teenagers.
That's gotten worse, by the way.
Has it? I thought it was getting better.
The reactionary children they're metastasizing.
I've seen
we hate to see it.
I've seen some savage, just deranged behavior, like innocuous, like blue sky messages or whatever. Like, I really like. I think there should be like more sex scenes in films, and then it's like, do you realize what you're saying? It like it's how quickly it spirals into like Alex Jones territory. Like it's like, well, okay. Right. You want to sexualize children? It's like, well, okay, all right. Like talk like it goes from zero to bad faith and like like no time flat. It's amazing.
Yeah, like there was I didn't investigate this too much, but like after Anora won Best Picture, there was like a post flurry of young women who of course are entitled to their very nuanced views on like sex work as a woman. I'm not saying they aren't entitled to that, but it was like about how you shouldn't make a movie about that. To which I would say often anti-sex work rhetoric goes very quickly into like a TERF sort of rhetoric, which is a hop, skip, and a jump away from a fascist rhetoric. You know what I mean? So like it's like it's slippery slopes do exist, but just perhaps not in the way one would think. Yeah,
you can't make a movie about that. It's like deranged.
Yeah, so the kids are weird, especially which it's not like Nora's like. I mean, I would say Nora's fairly neutral on sex work. Yeah. Like it's just not really about the sex work itself. Anyway, that's besides the point. But yeah, no, the kids are weird for sure.
Yeah, stop doing that.
Please do.
I don't know if this counts because it seems to me that the question would actually they didn't specify. So I'm going to say this is a valid answer. Mine is more of a formalist concern. And it's also more about television. And it's that episode orders need to be longer again. This is partly because I work in TV and I want more work and longer work. To be sure, but also like there's this sort of online brained film or television or just media criticism where like if a scene that exists isn't directly contributing to the advancement of the plot, if it isn't doing that, then it should be excised. Any episode that isn't, like, again, to bring up Severance, everyone was mad about, there was an episode recently that wasn't about the main plot, and like people online were like discoursing about it. And seasons of shows need to be longer again because episodes that are just about vibes or are just about characters existing in their space are important to textual understanding. And I think shows should be longer again.
Yeah, shows used to be like 30 episodes a goddamn season.
Yeah, bring filler episodes back. Like if it's just like if it's just characters having fun, I mean, that's still interesting. I don't know what to tell you. If you've lost the ability to feel joy, just say that. What's a trend that I like? Oh, I feel like we're getting more like gay genre film, which is nice. I do think it's mostly like sapphic movies, but like I like those, so it's still a win for me. But we're getting like less. We met at a club and we're sad about it, and more like let's eat that guy. So I, of course, I just talked about on the show how I want that to happen more and with men more often. But it's there. We can foster its growth. It can keep going. For instance, I don't know if you guys saw Love Lies Bleeding last year. That was like a nice little lesbian pulp movie.
I saw the other one, Drive Away Dolls.
Oh, I didn't see that one. Was it good?
It was watchable.
Yeah, they might not all be heaters, but I want more of them, and they're out there.
Okay, okay to find movies is a valid category for me.
Yeah, it seems that gay people are less interested. Gay filmmakers are less interested in being relatable anymore, and they're now just about they're getting weird again. You know, like this isn't like explicit. Like I mean, I guess I don't really know anything about emerald fennel, but like I mean, Saltburn got a lot of buzz last year, and that was about like licking some guy's cum out of a bathtub. That's pretty cool. I like that they're doing that. Keep it up. We have a lot longer to go. A lot we can go further.
Challengers was great.
Yeah, Challengers. That shit. Yeah, that movie was huge. There's always money in the banana stand, and the banana stand is being gay in weird ways.
It's techno blaring in the spa, baby.
Josh? Josh, did you see Challengers yet?
No, I haven't seen it yet. Got to. I did just watch. Never mind, I won't spoil it.
Yeah, whoa, buddy, we got an outro to do.
There's an incest plotline in White Lotus, and it's the best plotline of the season. White Lotus season 3. It starts in the first episode, so if you've seen the show, you've seen the beginnings. Okay, so you can find the show wherever you get your podcasts. So that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Please rate. All right, please review. Please subscribe. Please review. I'm going to say that twice because please review. Please send in questions. All right, you can do that on. You can message us online on Instagram or Blue Sky, or you could on Spotify. You can leave questions on episodes. Again, you can always send Craig a letter.
Always.
These are all valid options to get your question read on the show. Please send them in. We also have a Patreon. Okay, so that's patreon.com/swimfans. For the low price of $1, you can subscribe to all the episodes we have on there. We got some goodies on there. We'll have some more goodies coming up. So if you like the show and you want to support the show and you want to hear more episodes of Swim Fans about even differenter topics, you can get that there. And you can find the show on social media, Blue Sky, Instagram, Letterboxd, user Swim Fans, Blue Sky, and swimfanspod.com. And you can find me at all those same spots, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky, all those spots. User Amon's AMONNS. I have, full disclosure, not watched a lot. I've had a lot of work lately, so I haven't seen anything new myself, although I will say this is a great time for TV. White Lotus is good, all right? Severance was pretty good. Common Side Effects, all right? If you like animation, there's no show on TV right now better looking than Common Side Effects. So please watch it. I get mad at how good it looks. Like, I'm pissed off about it. Good time for TV. Alex.
You can follow me on Blue Sky, diatron5.swimfanspod.com. I'm on Letterboxd as Diatron. Similarly, I didn't really get to fit too much in recently. I watched a Vinegar Syndrome 4K of an 80s porno called Stiff Competition, which is it's like a parody of Rocky, but it's about sucking dick, which is an amazing, hilarious concept, and they actually do it justice. It's pretty funny.
What's that called?
Stiff Competition.
Hell yeah.
It's about who's gonna win the $50,000 suck off. I don't know, Craig. Go before I keep talking.
That rocks.
There's a training montage in it. Go, Craig.
You can find me at Craig Neeson on Instagram and Letterboxd, CraigNeeson.com. I recently watched the first 45 minutes of the new ContraPoints video. That's all I've seen in the intervening period. So looking forward to watching the other 2 hours.
It's good.
What's the topic?
Conspiracies.
Oh, let's go.
It's good. Shout outs to Natalie Wynn.
A friend of the pod.
ContraPoints come on Swim Fans. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.